Okay. So thanks, Richard. Yes, I've been around in the GRC world for a long time. I'm currently, I'm, up until very recently, I was the VP of Office of the CFO Sales for EMEA. My job role's changing slightly, but for today's call, this makes more sense than anything else. So I hear some background noise. Is someone having problems? Okay. So I'll keep going. Richard, can you hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Okay. So as it's a roadmap presentation, we're going to be talking about our intentions and our plans, but of course I have to start it with a legal disclaimer to say that they remain planning and there should be no acquisitions based on anything mentioned in this call, as times and decisions may change in the future. So the situation is really that we've got a new world we're working in, definitely compared to the world that we sold GRC into in 2005, 2006. There have been massive changes, and I think that these are the main trends that we see. Regulatory requirements are becoming more stringent, and there are more of them. We've recently seen things like GDPR being a hot topic for a lot of companies. It's the biggest ever regulation regarding privacy, private personal information, and the fines are immense. So we're having a lot of discussions with customers around how they can comply with GDPR at the minute. And we also see lots of other regulations that we still need to comply with, like Basel, Solvency, SOX, etc., and of course the IFRS standards as well. So the regulatory world is continuing to expand, I would say. And along with that, we've got some economic and political instability or uncertainty as well. I think we've seen recently some shocks, especially in the UK with Brexit. That was a shock to many people. And also the US elections brought up a surprising result as well. And there are huge effects on a lot of companies from the political situation. We also see a move to what we call the digital world. We see a move to digitized products and services. And this brings about new business models, as I said. IT landscapes are gradually, I would say, moving from traditional on-premise, in-house models to more hybrid models, and in some cases, a few cases, pure cloud landscapes. And whenever we're talking about moving to the cloud, there are, of course, security requirements, a lot of risk requirements that needs to be considered. So CIOs need to really be at the forefront of that change to secure the business in the new environment. Cybersecurity attacks are becoming a lot more board level, I would say, than they have been in the past. They are no longer really restricted to the CIO and the IT department, but right now the board is very concerned about this, especially with, GDPR is, of course, increasing the interest in cybersecurity, but also we've seen Sony's breach of data. We've seen recently the WannaCry and Petya attacks. And we're seeing that attacks are not traditional website defacement and a little bit of fraud, but the situation is now that there can be physical damage done by cyber attacks, and we've seen that in some of the Russian pipeline explosions and things like that. So cybersecurity is really, really moving to the forefront of people's thinking or board level thinking. And then, of course, we've got new business models. So we've got disruptive innovation with accelerating technology changes and really the unknown influence of social networks. So risk management, traditional risk management approaches are often obsolete. The digitization of media, 3D printing, P2P, person-to-person services like Uber and Airbnb, and many other technical advances just make it a different world that we're working in now. Companies moving to shared service centers more and more, like we already mentioned, moving their environments to cloud, and this needs to be managed. I keep believing that business itself is the undertaking of risk for reward, and if you're not managing that risk, you're not going to see the rewards. And if you If your business is changing, then you need to be able to change with it quickly. So these are the trends that we're seeing at the minute. Whenever I look back over time, I was with SAP way prior to 2008. But if we look at 2008, this is really where we had solutions: access control, process control, risk management, and also for GTS. Now, that's really the core of our offering, but the world has changed over the last 10 years. We have built on top of that a huge amount of products. Too many to go through today, too many to talk about the roadmap for each individual product. But every time there is a gap, we've tried to fill that gap as much as possible. So we've of course continued to have the GRC core. We've decided to implement solutions that enable us to have a more enterprise picture of organizations, to make it definitely none of our GRC products are SAP specific, should be able to analyze non-SAP systems as well. We are moving, as you'll see in this roadmap presentation, towards the cloud as well, or at least towards hybrid models. And we've also got new partnerships coming, for example, with SunGuard for business continuity management and things like that. So whenever there are gaps, we're trying to expand. GRC as a topic is far too big for us to be able to have every answer to every problem. But we do believe we've got the most comprehensive suite available now, and we're continuing to invest and expand both on the on-premise side of that and also, as mentioned, developing some cloud solutions. Because the suite has grown so big, we have categorized the products into 5 main themes. One of those themes being really the basic core of any risk management implementation within a company, that being the 3 lines of defense. And you can see the solutions that are related to that underneath that topic. We also have fraud management and screening, access governance, cybersecurity risk and governance, and international trade management. Access governance is interesting. At one time, we sold SAP Access Control, which is still the most successful SAP GRC application. But we have got a lot of other products in the space of access governance. And maybe the hottest topic we see at the minute are from our third parties, from our partners, our Solex partners. So we see a lot of companies extending access control across their non-SAP environment using some solutions developed by Greenlight. And we see people moving really to the next level of protection, moving from role-based access control to attribute-based access control with a solution called SAP Dynamic Authorization Management by NextLabs. So growing into new areas as well. One announcement, I think, that was announced at Insider is the combining of 2 solutions, SAP Fraud Management and SAP Business Partner Screening. We've combined those and called the new solution SAP Business Integrity Screening. There were a few reasons for this, but the main one was that whenever it was entitled SAP Fraud Management, the feeling was that this was a solution for fraud, and yet a lot of our sales were for many other topics as well as simply fraud management. The solution does big data screening. So if I look at, let's just see the next screen. This is slow coming up. It's the same sort of process as we had for fraud management. The design stage where we determine the screening lists, where we may get those from a third party, but we analyze patterns and define detection rules and models. The second stage is the setup stage, where we define the detection strategy. In other words, the integration or combination of multiple detection methods. And then we, using simulation capabilities, calibration capabilities, and potentially predictive capabilities, we define our detection strategies. And then this solution can detect in real time across massive amounts of data using the power of HANA to give real-time information regarding trends, patterns, and anomalies within the environment. That could be fraud relevant, but it could be simply for internal controls management. It could be for risk mitigation. It could be for many, many other different things. As companies are moving to having an S4 or having a HANA backend, it makes perfect sense that they have business integrity screening, keeping them secure, keeping everything intact and working at an optimal level. Moving on around this picture, we've got the investigation stage where we manage the alerts. One of the things about business integrity screening is that a lot of the alerts, at least initially, could be false positives. So we've got case management included in there to make sure that the true alerts, the true cases where an anomaly means something has gone wrong, can be identified and maybe passed to a solution like process control to actually ensure that it doesn't happen again. And then, of course, as with all of our GRC products, we have an analysis stage where we see what's working, what's not, and we continually improve and optimize. So this is the solution that we now call business integrity screening. And we've partnered with Thomson Reuters, who can provide their world check data to it says here, SAP Business Partner Screening. This is really the old name for a product. This will be part of the SAP Business Integrity Screening solution, which contains business partner screening and fraud management, what was previously known as fraud management. So with regards to roadmap, we do have some innovation focus areas. I think whenever I'm talking to our development, we are really focused on three main areas. One is the user experience, to make sure that the end users have an enjoyable experience in using the products, that they're not, that they haven't got text-filled screens that they don't need, but they see the data they want to see, they see the information on the device that they want to see it as soon as possible. And a lot of the innovation work that we've seen at the minute from SAP GRC is on that, on putting Fury screens behind everything, for example. Also in the consumption area, moving to cloud. And I have to spend a little bit of time on this because this causes confusion. And it's causing confusion because cloud means different things to different people. So I would call a true cloud solution to be a multi-tenant solution, which is public cloud and is available for everyone to log into, very little implementation or no implementation, just sign up and log in. And we do have a solution in that kind of public cloud arena, which is our access control product. We've got a new solution. I'll come on to it in a second. It's not new now, actually. It's quite old, but identity and access governance is the name of that solution. And we will be, in time, developing the other GRC functionalities we have in the on-premise world in those cloud versions of it. But right now, it's purely the identity and access governance. And based on customer feedback and requirements, we will continue to develop across the rest of the GRC suite. For a lot of people, cloud means that they just want it off-site and they want the platform managed, and maybe to a certain extent, sometimes they want the actual application managed as well. Right now, we can do that across almost all of our GRC solutions. So there are multiple options. It can be hosted within our HEC environment, so within the SAP hosting centers, and a lot of the ongoing maintenance work can be managed by a team in, for example, Waldorf. That takes away a lot of the administration and maintenance pressure from our customers, but there may be another requirement for the customers, and that is where the application itself is being managed. And we've got several options for that as well, including our partner-managed cloud offerings, such as the Bedrock offering from Turnkey Consulting, which allows really a full end-to-end management of the application as well. So right now, SAP have got the on-premise products. The on-premise products can all sit on a HEC environment, and we can manage the underlying platform. You can take those on-premise products and put them on a partner-managed cloud and have the application managed, or ultimately, we will be moving to public cloud multi-tenancy. But that's a long-term plan, and I think going forward, it has to be stressed that those on-premise products are not disappearing. We've got a development plan to continue, and we will be doing so going forward. The other thing to mention is embedded compliance. So this is really around our S4 release, where we want to have triggers from the actual application or making information available to be consumed by our GRC tools. So that is a continuous project that will continue moving forward as we continue to roll out S4. One of the biggest highlights I think we've seen recently is around what we call the digital boardroom. So this is an example of a digital boardroom. So this is, if you can imagine, this is one screen of 3 big plasma screens in your boardroom. and they're all touch screens, so you can touch one highlighted or one feature on this, and it will bring up more information about it. So we have, I'm not going to go through this in too much depth, there isn't enough time, but this is the first screen where we see the overall average risk evolution has increased, so we can drill into that and see the 6 objectives the company has set that they want to comply with: minimizing factory shutdown, minimizing operating cost, ensuring worker safety, maximizing product revenue, maintaining regulatory compliance. So these are the objectives, and we can see that there are 3 of these objectives have been impacted. One of those is hugely impacted, is this maximizing of product revenue. So I can click on this, and it takes me into a lot more information about that risk specifically, what mitigations are in place, etc., what incidents there have been. So this is what we've seen. SAP have been developing digital boardrooms for multiple scenarios. We've got digital boardrooms being developed for everything from 3 lines of defense to GDPR to access management to anything really. It's a very flexible offering, and yet every time we show it to a customer, they get very excited about the potential and imagine what else they could do with the digital boardroom. Here is our official roadmap slide, and one of the things on this which I noticed is that it seems very cloud specific. So we've got cloud identity access governance, watch list screening, policy management, and a GDPR application, all of which are going to be developed on the cloud side of things. But the more important bit for me right now is that we have got a new release of GRC coming out in 2018. I do not know yet whether it will be called 10.2 or 11, but it will be released sometime in 2018, I think in Q2. We'll have to double check that. But on the planned innovation side, we've got cloud identity access governance. So going back to what I said earlier, this is our current true cloud multi-tenant offering, and we're enhancing this as well, really to try and match what we've got in access control. It will take some time, but we're adding role governance, access request management, certification services, etc. And one thing that's been announced recently is we will have an integration between our on-premise access control solution and cloud identity access governance to enable companies to kind of have the hybrid model as they move their environment from one to the other. So we will try to do everything we can to make that transition as easy as possible, and one of the first things that we've announced is that integration between IAG and our access control solution. I'm not going to talk too much more about 2017 because we've just got some more cloud-based applications, but next year is the exciting thing, I think, in 2018, and this is the new release, whatever we're going to call it. Again, the big focus is on user experience and S4 HANA integration. We have got an issue now. It's not an issue, but we've got a challenge now where access control, process control, and risk management sits on one architecture, and our solutions such as fraud management and audit management sit only on the HANA architecture. So to be able to create a standardized interface and user experience is the focus for us going forward, to be able to have these Fury launch pads as entry points. And what we've seen in the last few months is additional front ends for process control, risk management, etc., so that the majority of users can live in a Fury world, can live on their iPhones or their iPads and have a common experience across those. So this is the plan moving forward, to continue that, and also to continue the support for S4 HANA and S4 HANA Cloud as well, as mentioned, through event-based controls directly embedded and programmed in the S4 processes. We've got a little bit of detail here around access, specific changes for access process audit and business integrity screening, but I'm not going to go through these details. I'm going to direct you to some very detailed roadmaps for each of these solutions at the end of the call. 2019, our product vision is to continue the development for the on-premise solutions and also to build something or extend the building of something called our API Hub. I'm going to start with the GRC solutions. So the two main focuses here would be to continue the user experience, the user interface, and also to enable the support for predictive capabilities. We currently have an integration between our business integrity screening application and our predictive solution, but the idea would be to include predictive in a lot more GRC solutions. And the other thing to mention is this API hub. This is really where we are trying to extend to allow our partners to build applications which can be added to the GRC side of things. Like I mentioned, we still have some gaps in the topic of GRC, and so we need to continue to use partners and use other solutions or solutions from third parties to be able to build the appropriate framework for each customer, and every customer's requirements will differ greatly. So this is a big step forward in that, where we've got the GRC API hub, which will be built on the cloud platform and will allow our traditional GRC solutions, our new GRC solutions, and third-party solutions to integrate together, and you can see hopefully presenting all this data within a digital boardroom. So this is a little bit further out. This is our 2019 product vision. So in summary, the big focuses for us are support of hybrid landscapes. So the existing on-premise applications plan to cover hybrid landscapes and applications and support customers on their journey. I don't know whether you call your journey digital transformation or something else, but most customers are at least thinking about what areas of the business they will be moving to cloud, for example. Secondly is further development on our cloud-based GRC services. And third is that API hub I've just mentioned. And the only other thing that I should have put in this slide is continuing development of our on-premise applications. There are none of our GRC on-premise applications are currently planned to be end-of-life as yet. So we will continue that development. With regards to the roadmaps, like I said, there are too many products in the GRC world to give a full roadmap on today, but here you can see the latest additions all from Q2 2017. The one missing off this is access control, and I know that that's because it's currently being updated at the minute, but if you go to sap.com/roadmaps, you've got the ability to look into our plans for all these solutions here. And I have finished with a couple of minutes left, I think. So, Richard, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks, Chris. That's great. If anybody has any questions from the audience, then if you just click on your name, and then you should see a hand signal just to put your sort of hand up, as it were. Or alternatively, you can just type your question in the chat box, and I'll read it out for you. Just while I'm waiting to see if there are any questions from people, one that I sort of had for you, Chris. I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit more about the embedded compliance features that are currently in place and future plan. That sounds like an interesting development.
Yeah, well, it is just, so I haven't got a lot of detail about that just yet. It may be available on the roadmaps, but I don't have a lot of detail. But what I understand is, as the S4 is currently developed and being enhanced on what we call a rapid development plan, there will continue to be code written for the S4 ERP solution, which will provide the information much more easily to the GRC solutions. So if I go back in time, whenever it came to, for example, getting information out of the tables within SAP, it's sometimes a bit of a mystery to be able to identify the right tables, find the table joins, and to be able to get that information. But if we can collate that information using SAP into a simple column in a table that can be accessed by process control, business integrity screening, ETD, whatever the continuous monitoring solution is, it makes it much easier for people to be able to consume that data and much quicker. There's no back-end work to be required. And that's the plan going forward, is more and more of these these data points being exposed to the GRC solutions for consumption by those.
Great. Okay, sounds interesting. I've got another one, just in terms of the business integrity screening product, so where that's been combined. I wondered if you could give us an overview of which products have been combined there, and just a little bit more background as to why.
Sure. So we had a solution, or we had two solutions. One was called SAP Fraud Management, and one was called SAP Business Partner Screening. So Business Partner Screening was intended to take in a content from a third party, the example being Thomson Reuters WorldCheck data, but it could be other data, to be able to identify everything from politically exposed persons to people on watch lists and blacklists and sanctioned party lists, to people with media links, etc., etc. Now, that solution was really using the functionality of another solution, which was SAP Fraud Management. So SAP Fraud Management looks into all the data within HANA, which could be from multiple different systems, to build a picture of normal practice. So to be able to identify anomalies and things that look outside the norm across those. So we would be building rules to identify transactions that may look like fraud. Now, what we realized really quite early on was that this functionality was being used by a lot of companies. I know that several times whenever I was asked to go and present SAP Fraud Management, I was asked not to mention the name of the product because it may send people off with the wrong idea. So, but the potential for the product was that it could be used for many, many other different things. So we've had an internal process in place for some time to be able to rename that product to something more generic, and that has now reached the stage where we're going to call it Business Integrity Screening. But at the time, it made sense also to include that Business Partner Screening functionality. So what it means is that all the customers of SAP Fraud Management currently are automatically licensed to use Business Partner Screening. They don't need to pay any extra for it. They would need to sign up for an agreement with WorldCheck, for example. And it is possible, I think, for people to buy the Business Partner Screening functionality separately. I'll have to double check that, but I think that product, you can still buy that one use case for it. But going forward, the plan is that Business Integrity Screening does everything. So it would be able to screen all the data for watch lists, for sanctioned party lists, and also for fraud anomalies and internal controls and things like that as well. So it becomes all-encompassing and makes a lot more sense for a lot of companies, especially those moving to HANA or S4.
Okay, that's great. And I know we're just over time, but I've just got one more question here from a participant who's sort of asked in the chat, and I think it's quite a relevant one given the sort of GDPR topic. Just wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about that GDPR product and sort of what it's going to be about.
Okay, so we have a lot of questions about GDPR right now. Obviously, everyone's concerned about it, and we've got whenever we started looking into it, we realized that there was a lot of parts of SAP, or SAP had a lot of areas where they could help. So some of those areas, the initial areas, is the identification of the data, identification of the personal data that there is in the environment, and that's not a GRC solution. So we had to speak to our database team and DDM to look at products like information lifecycle management, information steward, etc., to be able to do that part of it. But a second part of it is kind of an overall governance solution to be able to look at how the process of compliance is being managed, and that, of course, is process control. And a lot of the information analysis can be done through process control using continuous monitoring capabilities. And then we move to the stage where there's like breach management. And for breach management, I could be here all day talking about it. It's really our original GRC message. If you need to manage access access control should be there. You need to manage access across non-SAP systems. AVM needs to be there. You want to move to the next level of attribute-based, then it would be dynamic authorization management and EDRM. All those messages continue. It's just what we've seen is a lot more people interested in finally moving to that stage. So GDPR becomes the compelling event to people to move into that. When it comes to the GDPR application itself, it is like I said, it's a cloud-based application. Let me just see if I've got. Let me see if I've got any information on it here. So I should have the slide on it.
I think I've taken your sharing off actually, Chris. Do you want me to put
okay,
it back
no,
on?
no, it's okay. It's okay. No, it's fine. So we have. So this will be, like I said, a cloud platform-based solution. It's planned to support the DPO, or the Data Privacy Officer. One of the requirements of GDPR is that every company needs to be hiring a Data Privacy Officer or someone with the same responsibilities. But the solution is planned to support him in making sure he's compliant with the regulatory requirements, by providing a cloud-based GDPR cockpit to streamline the reporting and processing capabilities. So it's planned to work in distributed hybrid environments, which include SAP ERP and S4, and will provide things like IT-based process repositories, risk assessments, etc. It will also help with things like record of processing activity, data protection risk assessments, and landscape diagnostics. So it's a little bit different from what we've got currently, where we've got all the breach management covered. We've got the continuous transaction monitoring capabilities from process control, for example. We've got the governance and recording of the overall risk and how we're managing that. But it will be a complementary to that solution, and really is intended for the DPO to be able to give that picture of where they are towards compliance with it, as opposed to something like access control, which is kind of a more generic solution focused on managing access risk across the environment. It is a solution that's currently in development, so a lot of efforts going into it. It's planned to be released in 2018, which is not ideal, I know, because the deadline for GDPR is 25th of May, but I'm quite optimistic about the functionality of that product, just making life easier for those DPOs that we have. One of the challenges I've got is speaking to customers. There's a lot of customers right now who still have not put a lot of thought into GDPR and the pressures on them, but this is happening, and I think the companies who have looked into it are concerned about it. In fact, I think most companies will have announced that they don't believe that they will be ready for the deadline date of 25th of May right now. So it is something to think about sooner rather than later.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So hopefully, we have overrun a little bit, but I do have one question from the audience, if you don't mind indulging us in that.
Of course.
So Giovanni, I'm just going to take you off mute. I've actually got two questions here, but I don't think we're going to get through both of them.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, my question is about SAP IDM. I think we were under the impression that there will be a new tool that will take over IDM functionalities of granting access to the users in the landscape. But maybe you could clarify a little bit more about that.
Well, there is. So SAP IDM as an on-premise solution will continue to be developed. So there's no change to that other than new versions will be released for IDM. But we do have a new solution for those customers that are moving more to the cloud. And if you're deciding that your entire environment is going to be on the cloud, then the appropriate solution would probably be Identity and Access Governance, IAG. Now, the cloud-based solutions all come as service offerings. So there's a service offering for the risk analysis. There's a service offering for the provisioning piece. There's a service offering for the role design. And those will continue. Well, those are really new, and those will be developed as well as the on-premise IDM solution. So there will be options in the future, but I don't know whether those options are really about what GRC solution to go for. I think that the decisions are really about your own organization and where you see your direction is going. Will it be more moving to the cloud? Will it be on a hosted environment, or will you be keeping things on-premise? But the SAP's direction is to make sure that no matter what the decision is from your side, you'll be able to speak to someone to be able to identify what the appropriate solutions are for that environment.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, thank you. So I think we're going to need to wrap up there. I do have another question from Derek, but I will contact you separately, Derek, because I think one of my colleagues has an answer to that around identity management. So I'll drop you a line separately on that. Thanks very much, Chris. We will send some follow-up information to everybody on the call as well. Thank you for joining the webinar, and thank you for the presentation, Chris. Thanks for listening, and we hope you found it useful and join us for the next session.
Pleasure, Richard. Thank you, and thanks everyone for joining. Have a good day and enjoy your weekend.
Cheers.